And today, the same Western imperialist powers that colonized most of the world continue to staunchly support Israel and to make possible its crimes against the indigenous Palestinian people. You can see a clear example of this in the outrageous statements made by European governments in response to Israel's attack on Iran, which was a unilateral war of aggression sponsored by the US. The Foreign Office of Germany published a statement saying, quote, "We strongly condemn the indiscriminate Iranian attack on Israeli territory." So Israel started this. Israel launched a war of aggression by attacking Iran first, and the response of the German regime that committed some of the worst atrocities in human history, the German regime responded by condemning Iran because Iran hit back in self-defense. So essentially what Germany is saying is that Iran is not allowed to defend itself, that Western colonial powers should be allowed to attack Iran and any other country they want, because these Western regimes never actually abandoned colonialism. They were forced out of their colonies through the revolutionary national liberation struggles in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. They were defeated, but they still want to be colonial powers. They are desperate to recolonize all of these regions of the world, and that's what Israel is doing today. It's colonizing Palestine on behalf of the US empire and its European colonial allies, and they will not tolerate people in the region defending themselves against Western colonialism. That's why they condemn Iran for defending itself after the US and Israel attacked it first. France's multimillionaire banker president, Emmanuel Macron, did the exact same thing. By the way, in France, Macron is often referred to as the president of the rich because all he does is represent the interests of oligarchs, of billionaires and multimillionaires like him. Again, he was a former banker. And in response to Israel's attack on Iran, France and Macron condemned Iran, just like the German regime. And then immediately after, Macron said, quote, "France reaffirms Israel's right to defend itself and ensure its security," end quote. What about Iran? Iran has a right to defend itself and ensure its security. Iran is the country that was attacked in the first place. In fact, the US-sponsored Israeli attack on Iran killed 78 people and injured 320 more. And not everyone killed and injured by Israel was a military target. There were also many civilians who were killed and injured in this Israeli attack. Why when Iran responds to Israel's act of war and Iran hits back in self-defense and Iran targets military sites in Israel, the Western media and Western regimes claim that supposedly Iran is targeting civilians. But no, Israel is objectively speaking using its population as human shields because Israel built its military headquarters in the middle of Tel Aviv. So how is Iran supposed to hit back without hurting civilians? It's impossible because Israel did this on purpose because Israel knew that if it were ever hit, if any country like Iran were able to actually act in self-defense and fight back, it would be inevitable that there would be some civilian casualties because Israel is using its people as actual human shields. And by the way, when I say that Israel is using people as human shields, I'm not just speaking figuratively. I mean that literally. This was admitted by former Israeli soldiers in interviews that they did with the mainstream US media outlet, the Associated Press, the AP. They admitted that in Israel's colonial wars on Gaza, Israel frequently, not just a few times, but frequently, consistently, Israeli soldiers use Palestinian civilians as human shields. Because the reality is that the US empire and its Israeli outpost are so used to fighting women and children and defenseless men. They're so used to fighting small little guerrilla armies that have access to very low-level technology and not very many weapons and ammunition because the US loves to invade relatively small countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. The US is afraid of actually fighting countries that can defend themselves. And Israel